In this video, we're going to be going over the chord progressions that create songs. And we're going to start in no other place than with pop chord progression. This came about around the 1950s when they came out with this Nashville numbering system, which is what I've been showing you. Somebody recognized that there was certain patterns that was being played and that people really enjoyed, so they figured out that they could turn it into a system that other people would understand and be able to use. And the reason for going over the pop chord progression is just because you can find so many examples of it in use out in the mainstream, but it doesn't mean that you have to just use that pop chord progression. What I'll do is I'll show you this pop chord progression, and then I'll show you how you can start to make some of your own chord progressions. So again, we'll go back to the C major scale. So if we start from C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from C to C. And you'll see chord progressions written down as Roman numerals most times. So if you happen to see Roman numerals instead of numbers, they mean the same exact thing. So the first Roman numeral is referring to the first note in the scale. So that would be the C. And then the second is the second note in the scale, and so on. The pop chord progression is 1, 5, 6, 4. So that would be the first note or the first chord in the C major scale. So we can do a 1, 3, 5, and that would be the 1. And then we go to the fifth note, which would be the 5. So that's the second chord in the progression. And then we go to the 6, which is the third chord in the progression. And then we go back to the 4, which is the fourth chord in the progression. So the chords are the 1, the 5, the 6, and the 4. And all we're doing is taking the 1, 3, 5 for each of those notes in the scale. So 1, 5, 6, 4. And now you have the pop chord progression. Now you can also take that same progression and start it in different places. So instead of doing 1, 5, 6, 4, you can just go 5, 6, 4, 1. So it's the same exact order, you're just starting from a different place. So instead of starting from 1, you can start from 5. And then instead of starting from 5, you can start from 6. So it would be 6, 4, 1, 5. And you can also start from 4. So you can go 4, 1, 5, 6. And then all you have to do is add the chords to that. So if we start from the 6 and we play that same progression, which will be 6, 4, 1, 5. So we go 6, 4, 1, 5. That actually has a name, and it's called the sensitive female chord progression, and there's an entire website dedicated to it, and I'll show you that in the resources. But the thing I want you to know is that you can go out there and find other people's chord progressions and then use them by starting in a different place, or just use the same chord progression and just play it a little bit differently. So we can make use of the 1, 5, 6, 4 and just play it a little bit differently. So we can play it like this. So now you can see, instead of just playing the chords and sustaining them out, you can start to add some rhythm to it and add your own flavor. The other thing to point out is that this chord progression contains majors and minors. So we have a major key, then we have another major key, but then it goes to a minor key, and then it goes back to a major. So it kind of does that resolve that we were talking about, where it starts happy, it's still happy, gets a little sad, and then it gets happy again. So if you're creating chords, keep that in mind whenever you want to create your chord progressions. So you can start with a major, and let's say you want to go just straight to a minor. And then you can go back to a major again, to another major. So now you have a 1, a 2, a 4, and a 5. And then you can also play around with adding in some of the other things that we talked about before, with adding in notes, taking away notes, inverting or moving some of the notes around for the chords. So you can see how all of this starts to play into making songs, and you can do it relatively quickly because now you're playing all the notes in the scale because you know all the notes, and And you know that all the notes that you play are going to be the right notes because you're playing them in the right scale. And then all the chords that you play are going to be all the right chords because they're all inside of that scale. And then once you get comfortable with that, you can start to play notes outside of that scale and start to get a little more adventurous. One other thing I'll mention is that you don't always have to use 4 chords in your song. There are plenty of songs out there that use 3 chords and even 2 chords, and some songs even have been made using just 1 chord. Make sure you check out the bonus section where I'll give you a lot more resources that'll help you with putting this stuff to use and give you some more ideas on how you can create chords and create melodies by using this system that I've shown you.